My name is David Hullinger, and this is my lovely wife Elaine, and we are the Hullinger family from Washington, Illinois. The way I heard about Grace was when I first came to Peoria 40 years ago. My boss attended Grace, and he suggested I also attend. I lived in Morton, and Grace was in Peoria, and for some reason that was a long trip, and I never made it into Grace. All along the last 40 years, there's been people that suggested I come to Grace, and I always lived someplace else, and I didn't make that long trip. But you know, it took a tornado to get us to Grace, and we've been extremely thrilled at Grace. We checked out a couple of churches, and when we attended Grace for the first time, I knew that that's where I wanted to come. So I was very, very pleased to be there, and we've been so happy. November the 17th, 2013, our lives were drastically changed. Elaine had gone to Northern Illinois to spend some time with her mother, who was on hospice, had a few days to live. And I stayed in Washington, and it was Sunday morning and time for church, so I went to church in Washington. I heard the sirens blowing, the wind started blowing, and before I got into church, I was kind of concerned my car was going to blow away. It did not, but the sirens kept going, and church was, they told us in church that a tornado had just gone through John Bierce area and was heading northeast. So I immediately left church, and I came home. I got to the house a few minutes after the tornado had hit. People were just starting to come out of their houses and comforting each other, and it was pretty chaotic. I drove up in front of my house, and I just sat there and looked at it. The whole top of the house was gone, and I just sat there in the car by myself and looked down in the seat, and there was my Bible that I had taken to church with me. And then I looked back up, and I knew it was going to be okay. I knew God was in control.
Well, my daughter and grandchildren, we had been up for the weekend to visit my mom, and we were on our way home, and there were, the cell phones were going off and the radio was going off, that there was a tornado on its way to Rockford, which is exactly where we were, and my one granddaughter was scared in the back seat, so we stopped. And when we were stopping, we got a phone call from David. It said we didn't have a house anymore. And he talked to Lisa, he didn't talk to me. And she didn't tell me the whole story. You know, I'm thinking, well, we'll probably have to get a new roof or maybe some new siding. You know, I wasn't real concerned, but she was adamant that we needed to leave right then. And it was so windy, so we were actually probably driving through the tail end of the tornado. We saw a lot of debris and damage as we were traveling home, and the wind was very strong, but she just kept going, and she didn't say too much the whole trip home. And gosh, when we got here, it wasn't just our house, it was the entire neighborhood was gone. It was just surreal. Even today, I can hardly imagine that that's what could happen in a day's time.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful story. God sent so many people to us, and the first thing that I thought to myself that as it started getting dark that night, I thought, we don't have a place to sleep tonight. And then my phone went off, and a friend said, would you come and spend the night with us? I said, yeah, you bet we will. And actually that was before Elaine got there. And so I knew we had a place to sleep that night. And
we had more than one friend offer, actually.
But then the love and support that came from the community and came from everywhere, it just all over the United States. People were showing their love on Washington. And the churches were open. They would serve meals to us. They were absolutely fantastic. And the people came from everywhere. Wonderful.
Fantastic. Amazing.
Yeah, we felt like we didn't have much of a life for a few months, and we didn't, but that's okay. We had a lot of things to go through and a lot of growing to do, and we found a lot of support from so many people. And the people at Grace Presbyterian have been wonderful to us.
They were very friendly. Seemed to understand that we were temporary because of our dislocation.
The thing that I noticed the most was how God has appeared in people. People volunteered to come out and help us clean our awful mess up. And they would call us, because everyone that went through this was just devastated. You're devastated. What do you do? Your stuff, what you have left is scattered someplace and your house is a mess. And do I have to tear that whole thing down, and how am I going to get rid of that old house? And but God sent His people. He does every time. And they came in droves. We had people from Samaritan's Purse came in, and they had like 25 or 30 people. They worked all afternoon. It was cold. It was cold. And they were down on the ground finding little things in the ground. I found some of Elaine's jewelry and rings and so forth, and they found some of my tools in the dirt. And it was so cold, and I felt so bad for them. But they didn't stop. They didn't stop, and they kept helping. So that was one huge day, and they helped us, and we picked some things up, and they also tore down some pieces of walls and threw out windows and tried to clear things up for us. That was a huge, huge day. That made I tell you, when they left, because they always wanted to pray with us, and so they prayed with me so many times. And when they left that evening, I was on fire. I mean, I was 10 feet off the ground. I went into Walmart on the way home. I wanted to get something at Walmart, and I saw a dad and five children. And the kids were wanting something in the aisle. Dad said, "No, it's too expensive, we can't afford it." And I thought about that for a minute, and I said, I went up to the dad and I said, "I would love to purchase that for your family. For each one of those kids, I'd like to get what they wanted." And the man says, "No, you don't have to do that, that's all right." And I said, "You don't understand. I've just experienced a miracle in my life today. I've had so much love given to me, I want to give back." And so I did. We were able to work it out, and I went on my way, and they went on their way. But I was 5 feet off the ground for quite a period of time. And then a week later, a group of Lutherans called us and wanted to know how they can help. And so I said, "Okay, we got the outside of the house. Now we need to clean out the inside of the house, what's left of it, the basement." So they came in, 25 or 30 of them, and they brought machines. They brought a little dozer, and a tractor, and we started cleaning it out. And the houses were so full of fiberglass, and all that fiberglass and still in the air, and it was such a mess and so hard to breathe. And some of us were not using masks. A few others had masks, but you were coughing that fiberglass. And at that point, I said to myself, my new house will not have any fiberglass in it. And so I searched, and I found a builder who would spray foam all the walls. I have no fiberglass in this house. So it just made that impression on me. But the love of that community also, and those people and friends that came in and spent their time on a cold day, and they brought tubs, and they bought various things like that for us, and helped us retrieve things that we could save, at least for a while. The people that came from Samaritan's Purse came from many states. It was not just Illinois, it was many, many states. And I was really impressed, very impressed. And of course they had prayer with us, and they gave us a Billy Graham Bible. And Elaine lost her Bible and blew away. Mine was I had that, but so Elaine got the Billy Graham Bible, so she uses it now.
Just continued prayer. I think we're doing fairly well. We're in our new home. We have to sort through now our stuff to see if there's anything that's salvageable, but prayer more than anything.
Also, our biggest need is to be able to, that we can help others in return, show the love that we've experienced, we can help others. God is alive and well, and He's in people, and we got to see it.